Hello, this is Gay Wood with this week's edition of Guideline.
How about a fresh start right from the top?
Live from Ashton Court. And at 11 minutes to 7, it's time for this morning's farming news, brought to you in association with Dalgety Agriculture. And time now to cross over to Jane Creasy for our detailed look at the weather for farmers and balloonists this morning. Good morning, Jane.
Weather forecast, it should be dry and sunny at first, becoming cloudy this afternoon, and the outlook for tomorrow and Wednesday, continuing cold with night frosts and some sunshine during the day.
Dry and funny, I love it.
So do I.
Dave Watson at the news desk, and look at the weather forecast. Now, apart from a light shower, a good deal of the day will be dry. However, hilly areas in the north may have rather more persistent drizzle for a time later this morning. It's going to be one of those mornings, is it?
Hope so.
The weather forecast, dusty and dull and misty, and coastal areas may stay that way all day.
A mostly bright morning with some sunshine a little later on.
Visibility at Tullamarine has been reduced between 200 and 300 metres because of a blanket of fog and low cloud.
Melbourne's weather today, cool and windy with a few showers, but mostly fine. Temperature in town is 50 degrees. Today's forecast temperature range, a low of 48 and a high of 64. More news at 1 a.m.
And welcome to yet another bunch of radio bloopers. Once again, the proceeds of the sale of these cassettes go to the Wireless for the Blind charity. So, thanks for your contribution. By the way, if you can spread the word about these tapes, it's all in a very good cause. Now then, what have we got for you today?
Mike Bevan here. Join us tonight on Jazz Tempo. We've got an internet...
What else have you got?
Hello there, this is Acker Bilk, would you believe? I'm going to listen to Jazz Tempo tonight, between 7 and 8. There's records, and I've been flopping about the West Country this week, and I'm going to have a listen to Jazz Tempo, and it's beautiful. And there'll be... And apart from all that, there'll be the diary with, you know, what's on. Plus all that, live in the studio is Henry's Boot Blacks. Live in the studio is Henry's Boot Blacks, my old mate Henry. He does all the, you know, oh, God.
Blacking the boots, maybe. How about a record while we get a nice cup of coffee and a biscuit?
I never knew what elevenses were, you know. For years and years and years, I thought it was just a word used by posh people to describe the time between 10s and 12s. We didn't have high tea either in our house. I thought you had to sit on stools for that. High ones. Well, the tea wasn't low mine, it was just tea. This is Jackson Brown now. Has a very, very well-developed and advanced little 2-year-old, I think she was, when she first recorded this. As she gradually got older, of course, you will gather that she blossomed out as a young woman, and really and truly, it was quite sophisticated.
You'll drive you crazy. Lighten up while you're stepping. Don't even try to understand. Just find a place.
No, she didn't, you know. She didn't, you know. She was actually a slow developer when she got to the teenage period, didn't she, really? Shall we start that again? I shall now run to the back of the room and stretch us out to you here. I will start it again. Showing tremendous technical acumen here. He does it again without breaking even into a sweat. Come on, Jackson, love, for I take a faint here. She's still the wrong speed. Oh, Jackson. Good grief. Where's my Yankee?
And I always thought Jackson Brown was a fella. Silly me. But then that's what these blooper tapes are all about. Those marvellous moments when the immaculate image of our professional presenters plunges into catastrophic confusion.
A wartime bomb has exploded inside a dredging vessel in the North Sea, seriously burning a crewman. The dredger accidentally sucked the bomb up through a pipe 10 miles off Great Yarmouth.
Well, I must admit, I've never had a bra fitted at all, so let's pop into the next room, leave the rehearsal carrying on here, and perhaps you'll tell me a little bit more about what exactly you should look for in a bra.
I'd love to. Do you agree that you're probably the worst driver in the world?
Oh, no. I think it's just that everybody else is just that bit better than me.
I love the fire engines. Why is that particularly, then?
Because they're red and big.
Which part of England do you come from?
Wales. How did you get from guitar to keyboard?
I never played guitar.
Oh, I see. Well, that explains that one, right.
How actually did they go about stealing the saddles?
Well, they broke into the premises which contained the saddles and just stole them.
When do you do your Christmas shopping?
At Christmas.
And, of course, not listening carefully to the answers can get a reporter into dead trouble.
Dizziness, nausea, cyanosis, if they get enough of it, respiratory depression, cardiac arrest, and death if they didn't get the antidote.
And just how dangerous is this drug?
Not half as dangerous as an angry interviewee.
Now, you get out of this fight.
Now,
get out and take off that.
So Douglas, that's very nice.
Get out. Now, get out and get on my arm. I'll call the police.
Oh,
if you need just a quarter's tape to put this over, you get
That's
out.
certainly not what I'm trying to do, Mr. Douglas. In fact,
You're the worst, and I'll make it public. You're the worst interviewer that I've ever come in touch. Now, you get out.
Makes you realise that all those interviews we hear are the result of painstaking and detailed research beforehand.
I was just wondering whether you could do a very quick interview with us on this award, this Shell Award, for the playgroup. Would you be able to do that?
Well, we haven't actually been awarded it yet.
I know, but you are going to be this evening, aren't you?
Well, how do you know? Because we don't know yet.
Ah, right. Well, I understand that you should know by now anyway.
Well, we're just sitting in the hall in great suspense, waiting to know first, second and third prizes. So we know we've got third, second or first, but...
Right, okay. Well, listen, the piece of information I've got here, it's embargoed until 7 o'clock this evening, but you've won the first prize.
Oh, I'm glad you told me. I won't whip my knickers now.
OK, so let's just check a few statistics.
What's the most miles you've done in a year? I can tell you, it was 2 years ago. You did 6,000...
That's quite correct. And I was going to break the record.
You told me, say, 2 years ago I did. 2 years ago, 6,864.
That's quite correct.
So you say 2 years ago I did?
Yes, I did that. And the last year...
You did what?
I was going to break my record till I had a bad illness.
So how many miles is the record?
That was the record.
What was?
So the 6,000... What was it now?
6,824.
That's right. Yes.
Right, now we're all set for a really dynamic interview.
How did you come to be chosen to compete in Europe?
Yes, yes.
How?
Oh, now, yes.
How?
How long?
How did they decide to choose you?
Well...
You told me just now a little story.
Yes, yes.
Tell me again.
Very likely, yes.
Tell me again. Do you ever think of giving up?
No. I only get the old age pension, see?
How do you keep fit?
What?
How do you keep fit?
Very, very good. Very well.
What do you do?
Hey?
What sort of exercise do you do?
Yeah.
Not quite on the same wavelength, are they? Maybe a different approach.
What about this Golden Years Award?
What about what?
The Golden Years Award.
Well, very likely, maybe.
You pleased to be selected?
Eh?
Are you pleased to be selected for the award?
Yeah. But it's different if you've got a very, very good pension.
Eh?
How long will you go on?
Well, altogether? Well, at athletics? Well, I started in 1921.
How long are you going to stay competitive?
How long?
Yeah, you're going to, no, how long are you going to stay competitive? Do you think you will keep winning the races?
Oh, 15 years, but...
Suppose we're bound to get a proper answer sooner or later just by the law of averages.
How did they come to ask you to compete in Europe?
That's so, yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
And silvers from Baden and the European Championships.
You're competing against people who are much younger than yourself, aren't you?
Yes, yes.
How do you compare?
Have I?
How do you compare with the younger ones?
Oh, no. I've had more photographs taken of me than Diane and Charles, but they're wrong places.
But you're not thinking of giving up athletics?
Oh, still, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're going down to compete for this award?
Yes, I will, yeah.
I think this interview's heading for some kind of award itself.
How do you feel about that?
Hey?
How do you feel about the award? The Golden Years?
What, mate?
How do you feel about it?
Oh, what, the years?
The Golden Years Award. The one in Plymouth that you're going down for tomorrow.
Oh, yes. Oh, boy, yeah.
Maybe the best thing is if we play a record, the one that was decided on and agreed before the interview started. And if we're very clever, we can talk over the intro and sound very polished.
Cyril, let's finish our little chat by me asking you what sort of music you'd like, because I'm going to play your record. What would particularly please you?
Well, I rather like English Country Garden. I think that's quite a nice tune.
Morning has... That'll teach him. Now, let's move on to our star guest.
Well, welcome back. I'm Carol Thatcher, standing in this morning for Clive James, and my guest is Australian writer Clive James. I'm sorry, I think I got that wrong.
I like it the way you said
right.
it.
Paul, sorry, Paul, I'll get your name right in a minute. Clive, would you rather be a critic or a novelist?
I'd rather be called Paul.
Still, it could be worse. Just.
Let's switch the engine on. We're going off on a trip, Roger. This is Jill...
Marshall,
in Bristol going for a trip, yes.
At least she didn't think she was a fella.
The weather rather cloudy with bright intervals and 1 or 2 showers. The outlook mostly dry and becoming less cold with sunny intervals. John Devitt, Radio Bristol News. Next news at 4 o'clock.
Enough to make you emigrate.
Great, and I'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Yes, we'll be missing you for the next, 3 or 4 weeks, I think?
Well, it's up to, depends on when we can get together again, yes.
You're off back to the UK, aren't you?
No, you are.
Before you go, how about a quick mention for someone?
Miss Grogan now of Blackburn also wants ornaments made out of seashells, and she'd like some more seashells. She says that she has some seashells. She has some never mind. She has some seashells. Oh, dear. I'll start again. Miss Grogan wants ornaments made out of seashells, and to offer she has some seashells.
And after that, there's no time for a record, because it's the news, and we can't keep them hanging about.
It's 6 o'clock. Hang about. And time for the news with Peter Gallimore.
Lunchtime crowds parted and traffic snarled as a nude man ran past the taxation department in the heart of Sydney today. Eyewitnesses say the man appeared from completely nowhere. As women screamed, he ran along the pavement and into Martin Place. He slipped on the wet roadway and dragged... I beg your pardon?
A stand-up argument has broken out in London over the authenticity of Adolf Hitler's toilet seat. 2 former high-ranking Air Force officers both claim to possess the genuine article. The row blew up when one of them tried to sell his version at an auction in America. However, experts are apparently ready to concede that Hitler may have used both seats at one time or another.
It's amazing how the smallest thing can start the funny bone itching, and once the giggles start coming, there's no stopping them, however valiant the fight.
The general situation, a depression centred near Iceland will move steadily eastwards across the Norwegian Sea, with an associated cold front crossing all Scottish coastal waters overnight and tomorrow morning. Now the details. In west coast waters from the Solway Firth to Mull, the wind will be southwest, force 3 to 5, veering westerly tomorrow morning. There'll be rain tonight and at first tomorrow, with moderate or poor visibility, becoming good in the afternoon. In all western and northern waters from Mull round to Wick, including waters round the Hebrides, Orkney and Shetland, the wind will be southwesterly, force 5 or 6 at first, veering westerly by morning and moderating, force 4 or 5, then gradually veering northwesterly in the afternoon. The weather reports from coastal stations now issued 2 hours ago, starting with Machrihanish. Southwest 4, 3 miles, rain, 1017, falling slowly. Stornoway, west-southwest 4, 5 miles, rain, 1011, falling more slowly. Lerwick, south 3, 1,000 yards, 1011, falling. Salisbury, south-southwest 7, I'm very sorry about this. I'll try and get it right. Salisbury, south-southwest, 7. 1 mile. Rain. 1010. Falling. Lucas, west-southwest, 4. 6 miles. 1016. Falling. And I'm very relieved to say that there are no gale warnings operating for sea areas north of 55 degrees north.
I'm not. But then some broadcasters don't quite have that degree of control.
The gang took him to a lay-by on the motorway near to Birmingham and there produced the drug, morphine, which is the base for making heroin. On further moves, more morphine was found in a prawn cracker box in one of the gang members' bedrooms.
From then on, the negotiations were a harrowing affair, with the gang threatening to kill and even send his head home in a box. In a box.
It's 3 minutes past 2. London's weather, it's going to continue clear and fine for the early part of the morning. The afternoon, warm, sunny and bright, with winds light force 2 or 3. Maximum temperature, 27 degrees centigrade.
And maybe now's the best time for me to say a very big thank you to all those whose very occasional errors find them a place in the Bloopers Hall of Fame. Very sporting of them. And talking of sport...
It's 2:30. In rugby, we have commentary between Bristol and Newport, plus news of the EMI Divisional Championship match at Blundell Sands between the North and the South and Southwest. Keeping you in touch with these and all the afternoon's action around the country is Nigel Turner.
Yes, here in the studio, we'll be previewing the athletics this afternoon, putting out a few fires by the sound of it.
And making sure there isn't a moment's pause right from the off.
Well, good evening then from Pittodrie Stadium in Aberdeen. It's eyes down for this European Champions Cup quarter-final first leg. Aberdeen against IFK Gothenburg. And a minute's silence on the pitch. Not clear exactly what that minute's silence was about.
One booking so far. Mickey Tanner making his FA Cup debut. Lasted just 6 minutes before he incurred the ref of the referee.
India's collapse began soon before tea. The score was 17 when Parker was LBW to Botham. During the tea interval, both sides were introduced to the Queen in front of the pavilion, but worse, or a great deal worse, was to follow afterwards for India.
Motor racing, and after 200 miles, less than a second separated the first two home in the Austrian Grand Prix.
I'm right with James Hunt now. I'm literally behind him and I'm getting into his car. James, can you tell us what happened?
Well, no, this is a race.
Okay, no news.
The Bampton Gun Club. They're shooting today for the Bampton Pumpkin Club Clay Pigeon Cup.
I was a bit disappointed at the lack of imagination of the Swansea back row because they had that possession. They tried the same move twice with John Thomas relieving himself or disassociating himself from the scrum.
Marius Frazier, the 18-year-old son of the former world heavyweight champion, I beg your pardon, Marvis Frazier. Silly, I'm so sorry.
League Division 4. The game between Aldershot and Swindon, match postponed.
Will you be offering season tickets this year?
Yes, we shall be offering season tickets.
Nick Faldo was England's only winner against Argentina, while Ireland's Ronan Rafferty fired a 5-under par 67 to beat Spain's Severiano Ballesteros by 7 shots.
Just a moment to tell you, in golf, Severiano and Ballesteros have fought their... Severiano, Ballesteros, Paul Way have fought their back to all square.
And Scotland will be without ASA Hartford against Austria.
Their side includes South African opening bat Barry Richards and 3 Barbadians.
Scotland's Jeff Parsons equalled his British record of 2 minutes 22 metres 28 centimetres in taking the silver in the men's high jump.
Richie, there is no escape. You know Jonathan Hewat, who does these clangers programmes?
Yes. Am I featuring?
Well, you know, you just stumbled slightly.
Yes, well,
Only very slightly.
Well, you know I usually do it at 6:30 in the morning.
He just rung up. He listens at this time of the morning. He just rung up and said, would I say thank you to you? He appreciated that one.
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks a lot. You're a lovely lad.
I must say, sporting clangers do make some of the very best bloopers, though I'm never quite sure why. Maybe because there's so much that can go wrong.
Fulham's player-manager Ray Lewington appeals to the club supporters to be a little more patient if things don't go their way.
Obviously, it would help if they were that little bit patient with us. The lads get very uptight at home. If they possibly could be patient, it would be, I'm sure it would help the team with the punishment.
Well, Ray Lewington, they're having problems.
An awful lot of officials at these European Games march around the track, and it's not only distracting, but when it blocks one's view. And my apologies, those little frail cheers that I spoke about earlier have collapsed.
Everton side have just trooped off the field to a tremendous standing ovation from this crowd here in the sunshine, in the sunlight.
I was going to mention a little bit earlier that Nigel Turner, who normally would present this programme, is away on holiday at the moment, and congratulations to Nigel, a new addition to the family. And it's Simon James Turner is the new addition, and his stats in American football parlance is 7 and 13. 7 stone 13 pounds is what he weighed in at. So congratulations, 7 pounds. Oh, sorry, he's not that heavy. 7 pounds 13 ounces, and congratulations to those two.
And while I open a bottle to celebrate, let's take a wee break. Don't go away.
At last, it's here. It's new, it's fast, and it's delicious. It's Pronto Pizza! Pronto Pizza, the brand new Italian takeaway shop in Dean Street, tempting pizzas, mouth-watering pasta, and delicious Italian cuisine to take away. Pronto Pizza has opened its doors to a world of traditional recipes and fast, efficient service. Open lunchtimes and evenings 7 days a week. So for a new taste experience, shut up!
Right then, I better start with the basics. It's a light golden liquid. Oh, except for the white bit on the top, the head. And it's brewed from malt, yeast and hops. And the technical term for that is lager. That's L-A-R-G.
August all year round.
August for the best bread and rolls. Oh, good luck. You have ever tasted. I knew that had to happen one night, friends. Try the new fantastic potato bread. It's delicious. And the Vienna bread and the real Bohemian Jewish rye and the health pumpernickel and all the rest of the assorted bread and rolls from August. Friends, the news will be next. And when you go into the store tomorrow, ask for August Brothers for the best bread and rolls. The best bread and rolls you can, yeah.
Our ground staff will be pleased to assist you with any further help you may require. Our have a hostess service. No, I can't do it now.
Today, John Clark & Son, like the craftsmen of old, design and hand-make their rings. There are no salesmen or inexpensive addresses in the price because you deal direct with the jeweler manufacturer and your ring leaves the workroom only when you're completely satisfied.
I only discovered the other day that a ring was an unmentionable part of the Australian body. Right. Back to sport.
5:04 at Newcastle, or 4:05 at Newmarket. This is take two, 4:05 at Newmarket.
It's 7 minutes to 9 o'clock, and we'll turn our attention in just a second to cricket, if I can find it. Today is a big match, definitely. I've lost my bit of paper. Got it. I knew there was a big match somewhere. Which brings us to the latest clanger, because we've also had phone calls from people offering tickets for an interesting game of cricket. It's described on the pieces of paper I've had passed to me as the Test match at Yeovil.
Boxing. The vacant British heavyweight title has been won by the 28-year-old Irishman Gordon Ferris. He outpointed Billy Aird of Liverpool over £15 in Birmingham last night.
Clark took £600 with his winner's trophy, while Johnson Allen's runners-up cheque took his day's earnings to 300 peanuts.
Today's result will be particularly significant with both clubs at the bottom of Division 2.
And City's Peter Aitken says one side must win.
With all these soccer matches being called off, it looks as though Tiddlywinks could come back into its own. Although the last time I played against Stuart Linnell, he cheated. He tiddled when he should have been winking. Yes.
There's one change. New signing Neil Hartigan is not eligible. His place will be taken by David Byrne.
I take McEnroe to win in the end.
Very briefly, Tony, we can't, I suppose, expect British players to do any better than first or second round?
Particularly when there aren't any here, Gary.
What about the bad weather this summer? Because we've had an awful summer up till now. How has this affected your play?
When it's been raining, I don't bowl too well. But when it's been raining, we haven't played.
But we end this look back at the year with the comment of the year, a remark that, while said, I'm sure, with the best of intentions, takes some believing. It came from a certain dog track photo finish man who was asked to enlighten listeners as to the explanation of a short head.
The dog's nose should be in front of the eyes.
The dog's nose should be in front of the eyes.
Sport on 4 was presented by... I've forgotten the man's name.
Never mind. Let's go out and about on one of those roundabout things. You know.
Well, as you can hear, the organ is going well in the background, and I'm on one of those things that we would call a roundabout. John, what's its actual name? Is it a callio?
Beg your pardon?
What is it called, a callio, this?
Galloping horses. Or carousel.
Carousel?
Yeah.
How did you get this?
I've been in the family all our lives, you know.
And you've been running it as a professional
Yes.
concern all that time?
Yes.
How much uptake did it take? How much did it take to upkeep this? Because it must be quite difficult to get bits and pieces.
Oh, yeah. We make most of it, yeah. We have to make a lot of them.
Well, I'm gonna get on this chicken and make my way off around as the ride goes. Now, this is a bit tricky with a tape recorder, but I'll sling my leg over there, try not to break anything, and we're off. I'm so far up that poor Claire's left behind. It's gathering speed now, so I'm on my way. I've always wanted to do this. So as it gathers speed, and I go up and down on a chicken, I'll say cheerio from Rushden Hall Park. Loads of entertainment, so do come along.
I think I'll stay exactly where I am, thanks. Wherever that is.
And their hospital is in Jerusalem, where the Knights of St. John first came from.
Whereabouts is Jerusalem? Remind me.
In Israel.
Oh, that Jerusalem.
Good thing His Holiness was away on one of his trips and missed that.
Pope John Paul II has just touched down by helicopter in front of the Governor's Palace here in the northeast Brazilian city of Bahia. I've been talking with some dwellers. They're not happy that the civil and the ecclesiastical authorities here, they say, are manipulative. Oh, God, here is the Pope.
Miraculous. Right, Reverend?
He sees his people being rescued, returning like a group of hostages from modern-day Beirut into a once barren land now fertile, flowing with fresh streams, blooming like no garden festival since Eden. And in this renewed land, the blind will hear, the deaf see.
And technical operators will stay awake throughout every programme.
And Lincoln Shaw asked him,
What do you think were the main points that influenced the minister in his decision?
Well, I'm sorry that Mr. Kenneth Lewis was being played at twice his normal speed.
The Spanish Prime Minister, Mr. Leopoldo Calvo Sotelo, has said he'll be re-examining the country's anti-terrorist measures, as well as looking at possible new ones. Tom Burns has just been on the line from Madrid. Well, more of that in a moment.
Can't wait. And if silence is golden...
Was there any move at all this morning to get these
there were
bulldozers
certainly some demonstrations, and the police did use tear gas to break up a crowd of demonstrations, which included
Peter, can I stop you for a moment?
Including clergymen and people like that, and a few others who are members of organisations which are known to oppose government policy, and particularly government policy in relation to migrant workers.
And over-enthusiastic broadcasters. Now, what on earth are you doing?
Can you tell me what you're doing now? You're feeling...
Yeah, we're just about looking for an anus in which to put a thermometer.
And that's just about it. If you want to know when Volume 4 comes out, drop me a stamped, self-addressed envelope and we'll mail you as soon as it's available. Hello, here we go again with another bunch of broadcasting bloopers from all over the place. Well, here and there.
Around the county on 603 and 1242 in the medium wave, and 5 VHFM in stereo... yes, VHFM stereo transmitters.
97.3 FM and 97.3 VHF.
On 97.6 in VHF, medium wave.
96 medium wave, 275 medium wave, whatever.
97.3 FF, VHF, and 261 medium wave.
95.2 VHF, F, and 202 meters medium wave.
Broadcasting on 19 meters medium wave, 95.5 VHF. And the time now is 12 o'clock.
261 meters medium wave and 97.3 stereo VHF.
On 603 and 1242 kilometers.
On 97.3 FM, and I can't remember the other frequency. Never mind.
261 meters medium wave, 97.3 VHF, 28 hours a day.
And this is 11 o'clock, and this is Alan Dedicate.
And this is me, Jonathan Hewat, mingling with the professionals.
Today's editors were Jenny Abramsky. I beg your pardon, today's editor was Jenny Abramsky. Studio production was by Sue Littledale. Well, good morning, this is Harriet Cass making the mistakes today.
And I have some travel traffic news for you.
I think we'd rather have something a bit more exciting, if you don't mind.
Can we now come to a question which is liable to interest the housewife, and that is, how should she use a knife, or how do women, or indeed men in the house, tend to misuse knives?
Now, there are many housewives who try to use knives for all purposes in the household, for cutting wood, for screwing...
Screwing screws?
Well, in a manner of speaking. And that's the great thing about these broadcasting bloopers. The mighty, or even the almighty, momentarily falling off the pedestals we put them on. No matter who, or when, or even where.
British choir now sing the traditional... I do apologise.
Please don't. It's our pleasure, I assure you. In fact, the more chaos and confusion, the better.
Hello, Betty. Hello, Betty. Betty is not there in Ilford. Shall we try another line, perhaps? Hello, who have we got next? Hello? Who am I talking to now? Nobody at all. It's Betty, or... I mean, I could sit here and guess. I could go through a whole list of names, perhaps. But I don't know who's on the line. Anybody, please. Hello, who's that? Nobody is talking to me at the moment. We'll have to sort out our link with... what we loosely describe as Communications House at Gough Square, and find out who the next caller is. At last. The news has come through that instead of talking to callers, because we've got a slight problem with the phones, on top of everything else, we're going to have some music.
Oh, good.
And here it is.
Good.
Eventually. They're just sorting it out now as well.
Oh, good.
I wonder what it's going to be. We'll probably have some music, won't we? Oh, no. Guess what? We're not going to have some music. We're going to have a caller. Ethel. Good Lord. Hello, Ethel. Hello, Ethel.
Cecil.
Cecil, even.
Cecil, yes.
Oh, good Lord.
Hello,
Cecil.
Cecil, yeah.
You've no idea the problems that are going on here
I
this
would
afternoon.
think so. I've been listening to you.
Haven't we all? Maybe a different caller on a different line with a different presenter could be what the doctor ordered.
I've been suffering from, well, not suffering, really, but I've been in Poland for about 17 years. I'm diabetic. I was wondering if there's any chance of getting it back again.
You say you're diabetic?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're worried that you're going to get it back again?
Well, if possible. I've been trying vitamin E tablets for a year now.
Well, I don't understand what you mean. I mean, you're either diabetic or you're not. I mean, what do you mean, get it back again?
In Poland.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. I thought you said I've been in Poland.
No.
Oh, sorry about that.
Well, you didn't have the benefit of a script to rely on, did you?
West Yorkshire Police Police Committee this morning decided that the internal police inquiry into the Yorkshire Ripper investigation should be published. Peter Marshall put it to the committee chairman, Councillor Ron Darrington, that their decision could be seen as some justification for the claim by the Mail on Sunday that they published the controversial memoirs of West Yorkshire former Chief Constable in order to force the police committee's hand.
I think we'd better stop there, because there's the on-the-hour news coming up in, about 10 seconds, right?
Yes. Right, the time's coming up to 11 o'clock. That was a technical hitch, which I carefully designed, and which I shall explain to the staff later. They're all falling around on the floor in hysterical laughter. What was I saying? Oh, yes, it's 11 o'clock.
Happy Christmas!
The news headlines with Jane.
Oh, shh.
No, don't swear, Jane. You're on, darling.
The Chancellor is expected to have his usual pre-budget morning walk before starting his statement in the Commons this afternoon. I should, of course, have said his pre-budget morning walkabout.
The 2-week strike has started today by orderlies in the operating department at Frenchay Hospital, and the 4-week-old strike by sterile supply workers at Southmead Hospital is continuing.
Latest information shows that 61% of children aged 5 have shining white choppers with not so much as a single filling, and tooth decay in slightly older children has dropped by 1/3. Avon's area dental officer, Tom Dowell, can't really explain it, although one theory put forward is the increase in the use of fluoride toothpaste.
Let me get my teeth into the weather.
Well, it's frog... no, it's not. I knew I was going to say this sooner or later. It's fog and frost, and not frog and frost. Early morning mist or fog with rain in places. Rather cloudy, just a few brighter intervals. Well, there might be some bright interviews as well. You never know.
True, and they keep on coming.
Reports are coming in of a series of bomb explosions in the centre of Belfast. More details soon.
Meanwhile,
President Carter met with Lord Killannon today and told him no way will the U.S. go to Moscow with Soviet troops in Afghanistan. Apparently he whispered.
Not like some people I could mention.
The IRA in their statement to Sinn Féin said... Please stay quiet, okay? The IRA, in the statement to the Sinn Féin conference, said, stay quiet, please!
I somehow can't imagine them being that polite, but then that's probably my lack of...
The government is in its position it is, because there's absolute no understanding of working class positions, and that shows a complete lack of ignorance.
Don't know if I'd agree there. Most Conservatives have the benefit of a very expensive private education. And it shows.
Je suis convaincu que nous vivons un moment historique, comparable à celui d'il y a 20 ans.
I'm sure I know that voice.
Car il est certain que les décisions que nous prendrons tous dans les semaines à venir seront déterminantes pour l'avenir politique de l'Europe.
And we'll stay with the politicians for a while, because that's where you get the biggest boobs.
A factor Agnew demonstrated to the full, regularly putting his foot in it and embarrassing the Nixon setup with his boobs.
And boobs don't stop short at presidents either.
Demonstrations have taken place by workers whose trade union rights have been betrayed, by Catholics whose freedom of expression has been circumscribed, by professional men well, I believe it at least is a Christian right.
Adlai Stevenson, no less, and following in his eminent footsteps.
Mr. Reagan was about to address the American nation on radio when, for the purpose of a technical test, the U.S. President was asked by the engineers to say a few words. President Reagan, believing that he would not be overheard, said this.
My fellow Americans, I've talked to you on a number of occasions about the economic problems and opportunities our nation faces. And I'm prepared to tell you it's a hell of a mess.
Later, a worried Mr. Reagan inquired whether his comments might have been received in the White House press room, which was hooked up for the purpose of the broadcast. It was. The reporters were tuned in.
And turned on. Then there's the president they said couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time, let alone play golf.
And you apparently played with Henry Ford last year?
With Gerald Ford.
Sorry,
President Gerald Ford.
That's him.
President Ford often stumbles over his words when speaking in public, especially when he's reading from a prepared text. Last night, at a dinner in Washington, he was paying warm tribute to the visiting Egyptian President Anwar Sadat. All went smoothly until near the end.
It's a pleasure and a privilege for me to offer a toast to you and the people that you represent, the great people of the government of Israel, of Egypt.
And they sorted that out through an impartial body, one that pours oil on troubled waters whenever there's a diplomatic hiccup.
Membership of the United Nations is open to all peace-loving nations which accept the obligations of the United Nations Charter. The original members of the Security Council members is 60.
At the United Nations in New York, the Palestine Liberation Organization has said it's agreed to withdraw its forces from West Beirut.
One of the toughest problems facing the United Nations over many years has been that of securing an independent Namibia, which is governed by South Africa in defense of UN resolutions.
Pardon?
In defiance of UN resolutions.
That's better. But the main thing about political broadcasting is you've got to be 100% accurate. It's called being on the ball.
Mr. Champel has been an outspoken critic of the left for a number of years.
I suppose if you want a truly impartial critic, you've got to find a real specialist in his subject.
Politics in every shape and form.
Right.
Professor Crick, to many people, politics as a study appears to be a very dull subject. What is there about it that attracts you so much, and do you actually find it exciting at all?
I do find it exciting. My God, this is exciting to be asked here to come and talk about part-time education and then to find I'm talking about politics. But still, let's talk about politics. If anybody wants to talk about what your producer asked me to talk about, which was the future of part-time education in this country, I'll gladly throw that one up. Okay, fair enough?
Fair enough indeed. And apart from checking out who's who and what's what, an interviewer needs to make sure the volume level's correct before the interview begins.
If we could say a few words for level. A few more words from you, Mr. Maudling. Did you listen to the whole debate?
Level is always the thing, isn't it? Blithering rubbish.
If we could say a few words for level, Mr. Maudling.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, a few words for level.
Well, if your machine doesn't work adequately, record my level, that's your bad luck, isn't it? Must be mad to do it.
True, but let's dash back to the on-the-air studios where it's only adrenaline that's coursing through the body.
The rumor that the president would veto the bill is reported to have come from a high white horse souse.
Well, the fact that it was unanimously passed by a majority vote.
After his election victory in Malaysia last week, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, has started to recognise his government, reorganise his government.
Chancellor Helmut Schmidt's chances of surviving a vote of confidence in Parliament have improved dramatically.
Nigeria's seizure of the BBC asset, of the BP assets, has cast a shadow over the opening day of the conference.
Conservatives on Brighton Council are denying claims that their policies are generating too much paperwork. Labour councillors criticise them over the government's ruling that major projects must be offered to private contractors.
Through it all, she said, her duties as a constituency MP had kept her going. Work is her tonic.
It's very important to me that I have a male London constituency who can dash up quite frequently.
Well, we'll hope to hear from Mrs. Thatcher at a normal pace in a moment. A technical problem there.
Just one of a whole host of difficulties any interviewer has to deal with.
It's not just tourism.
Aren't we going well above the 2 minutes that you were going to take?
I don't believe so.
I think so.
Well, I haven't been keeping an eye on the clock.
Well, how much have you taken?
I really haven't a clue.
Well, if you're keeping an eye on the clock, you'll know how much you've taken.
No, I said I haven't been keeping an eye on the clock.
Well, if you check through the glass bowl, you'll find we've already done 2 minutes.
Does that mean you wish to terminate the interview?
That means I wish to terminate it, because otherwise, if we do more than that, it won't be what either you or I decide is important that will get transmitted.
Yes, I do want to ask you another question.
So you have got already 2 minutes?
Yes, I think we have.
Well, the result of your asking me another question and my answering it is that some of my previous answers will be deleted.
Well, unless things have changed, Mr. Powell, I was under the impression that editorial control rested with the BBC.
Well, that's right. But what rests with me is how much I give them to cut about.
How very true. And another way of fighting back is to unclip your microphone from your tie and walk out.
My task is to maintain a balance between all three services, and most expert opinion, setting aside those who want to drive divisions between the services, is of the opinion we've probably got the balance about right.
But why should the public on this issue, as regards the future of the Royal Navy, believe you, a transient, here today and, if I may say so, gone tomorrow politician, rather than a senior officer of many years?
I'm fed up with this interview, really. It's a ridiculous rolling room.
Well, thank you, Mr. Knott.
I hope you're enjoying Bloopers Volume 3 as much as Volumes 1 and 2. They're all still available, and they make a smashing present, with the proceeds once again going to Wireless for the Blind. Now then, who have we got in the studio today?
Dave Wexall, the chairman of GLC's Transport Committee, and Richard Home, the editor of the Railway Gazette, but we'd also obviously like to hear from yourselves, 353-8111. Richard, can I turn to you first, because, of course, yesterday's news from Sir Peter Parker, British Rail heading for a deficit of some £140 million. How serious do you think that position really is?
I think it's a very serious one. I'm afraid I'm going to have to tell you and let you into the whole secret, which is I'm not editor of the Railway Gazette. I'd better reveal who I am, just in case people are getting too confused. I'm president of the Liberal Party, and I thought I was being invited in by you, and I'm very pleased to be here to talk about the situation with public transport. I've got views on it, so I hope I won't waste your time entirely, but I am not the much-fabled editor of the Railway Gazette.
Well, this does prove it's live radio. This is absolutely wonderful. Somebody's obviously wandered into the wrong studio, and while producers and everyone panics and blanches, I will now turn to Dave Wexall, who, pray to God, is the chairman of the GLC's Transport Committee.
Yes, I can assure you of that.
Liberal confusion there. But then I often do find politicians very confusing. They never give simple answers like yes or no.
But isn't it rather mean to show your political opposition in this way?
No, I don't think it's mean to show our political opposition. You have to take the opportunity to show your opposition to things at the right and opportune moment, and this is an opportune moment to show our political opposition in this particular way.
See what I mean? And what on earth does this mean?
We've chosen a site with the least damaging environmental consequences compatible with the training facilities that we believe is necessary to have. And I've also said to my department that in the context of this particular development, we ought to look to see if there are any other areas in the county where we are in the process of bringing about environmental improvements, which we can bring forward in order to demonstrate as clearly as we can that the relationship we have with the local people here is one of great importance to us, and that we want to enhance some environmental areas at a time when we appreciate we are about to proceed with a development, if the planning applications are satisfactorily dealt with, which must have its local effects.
No wonder it wasn't clear whether his resignation had or hadn't been accepted.
Mrs. Thatcher says she has, with great regret, accepted it. From Westminster, our political editor, Peter Murphy.
The real question now is, has Mrs. Thatcher accepted it?
Oh, well, there you go. And here's another of her stalwarts on tip-top form before he resigned, first time round.
We don't regard the alliance
as our enemy. We don't like the alliance. We regard the real threat to this country and the real threat to us as the Labour Party.
And talking of him, one of the all-time classic bloopers happened when his resignation was announced on local radio. You can hear it on Bloopers Volume 1, towards the end of the second side. A spectacular moment in broadcasting history. Now then.
The focus of attention was on the new Premier, Robert Mugabe, a 56-year-old former guerrilla leader. The Chief Justice, Mr. Hector MacDonald, swore in the new President, the Reverend Canaan Banana, who in turn swore in... I'm not going to be able to say that.
Botswana. Dr. Kwet Masiri, a former journalist, has been elected president to succeed the late Seretse Khama.
You know, I get the impression foreign diplomats deliberately choose the most obscure names just to foil broadcasters.
Pao and Fat tried to throw out Khan and put in Kim, but Kim wouldn't go and Khan made a comeback. Then T and Ki decided they didn't want Tao, Fat, Kim or Khan. Anyone who's still confused is in good company.
The Chinese Foreign Trade Minister making the first visit to Britain by a senior government official is to visit the Derby works of Rolls-Royce and British Rail on Thursday. The minister, Mr. Li Chang, will be accompanied by the senior vice chairman of the State Planning Commission, Mr. Huan Luang Po Ho Hoi. The pair will look at Concord at the Rolls Works in Bristol before flying to Derby in a Rolls-Royce executive jet. Last night, Herbert Chetipo, chairman of ZANU, which is the illegal Rhodesian freedom movement, claiming to run the guerrilla campaign inside Rhodesia, arrived in this country. This morning I asked Mr. Chetipo, I'm having great difficulty with his name, is Gerald Hawkesworth alive?
Maybe we'd better scuttle back home, so we can avoid any more tangles.
7 o'clock and the news comes from Gavin Campbell. Michael Foot is to stand for the leadership of the Labour Party.
MPs began queuing at the House of Commons soon after dawn to reserve their places in the chamber, and the first on the scene, John Heddle, the Conservative member for Lichfield and Tamworth. And here he is.
Oh, good.
A Labour MP, Eric Deakins, demanded in the Commons this afternoon that ministers, their families and their family trust should be formally debarred from buying shares in Britoil. Mr Deakins tried to get an emergency debate in the House, saying he did not accept assurances from Mrs Thatcher that ministers were in no way, I can't read it, Gordon.
We're in no more an advantageous position than ordinary people.
That's right, that's right.
Rosalind Morris has been hearing from Steve Futterman in Steve Futterman in Los Angeles has been telling Rosalind Morris about the circumstances of Mr. Kaplan's arrest. Or perhaps he hasn't. I'm sorry, we're still waiting for that tape. The tape I've just seen being flung across the control room and it's being put on the machine now. We're about to hear from Steve Futterman in Los Angeles about how Mr. Kaplan came to be arrested.
Well, he's been working apparently at a stockbroker.
Meanwhile, out and about, there's a cast of hundreds all set and raring to go.
Easton, modern girl, definitely not a girl today, out and about with our radio car, is David Gonston.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. Here at the Longwell Green Community Centre in Bristol, Mrs Thatcher's election coach is just pulling through the gates. She's arriving, met by crowds of demonstrators outside, and there's a great surge forward as she comes out of the coach. Her security people are coming first. Mrs Thatcher now is about to walk down the steps. She's here to visit this community centre. Yes, the crowds go up from the Loyal as she's arrived, surrounded by television cameras. We're going to go forward now and see if we can get a word with her, if that's possible.
Gosh, a scoop.
We'll try and get closer. It's great. We're pushing and shoving, but she's coming through now. Room being elbowed for her by her security people. Yes, she's stopping, but it's hard to get anywhere near here. There's been 2 press buses, so Mrs Thatcher is absolutely surrounded by the world's press as she comes through. It's getting... Waiting here, but I'm pushing my way through on your behalf to get through. And we're getting quite close now. She's very close now. Mrs Thatcher... Yeah. Getting extremely crushed, but we'll try and get it.
Will you come back,
Mrs Thatcher.
You must not do that. Can you come out of the way?
Well, those weren't quite the couple of words we wanted. Never mind, if at first you don't succeed.
Mrs Thatcher is obviously laying down the law. Quite a few crowds. She's more interested in the babies at the moment. I wish she would say a couple of words, and at least we can all get out to the crush. But we'll have to wait. You've no idea what it's like here. I don't think I've done a broadcast under these conditions ever before. Mrs. Thatcher, what about your chances in Bristol, do you think? Go on. Mrs. Thatcher? Mrs. Thatcher, live on Radio West.
Gentlemen, if you move back, you'll all get a picture.
It's not pictures we want, it's words. Just a couple, please.
I think, Trevor, we're going to have to leave it there for a few minutes, and I'll try and get a little bit closer on in a minute, but I must admit I've been elbowed out of the way slightly, and I have a microphone cord here which is doing a grand job in tripping everybody else up. So we're back with you in just a few minutes. We'll get ourselves sorted out.
We'll listen out for you, Dave.
Ah, well, you can't win 'em all. Hang on, he's got her.
Mrs. Thatcher, can I ask you what your chances are, do you think, in Bristol?
Very good.
You're live on Radio West, Mrs. Thatcher. What... I've been pushed out of the way again.
Well, he got what he wanted. A couple of words. Twice, too. Let's move on to someone else. But who?
Hello. Who am I talking to?
Doug Now.
You don't know?
Doug Now.
Doug Now, right. Doug Now.
Doug Now.
The Bishop of Durham, the Right Reverend David Jenkins.
I suppose if you're very famous, you're really very well known, if you see what I mean.
The Labour Party, the trade unions, the churches, the authors of the Stonefrost Report, all these people, leave aside the Liberals for a moment, believe that the Liverpool City Council can and must take action itself and has the competence to put the city on a financial footing. How can you disagree with all those different groups of people?
Stonefrost himself quite clearly lays out, Mr. what's his name? Robin Day. Quite clearly that arithmetically...
Still, you wouldn't get broadcasters getting famous names wrong, would you?
Our questions team this week. Member of Parliament for Plymouth Devonport, former Labour Foreign Secretary, today the leader of the SDP, the Right Honourable Dr. David Steele.
Well, he got the David bit right.
In tonight's programme, Sir Alec Douglas Hume outlines the limits of Britain.
Tomorrow, Conservative Cabinet Minister, the Right Honourable Norman Fowler, will be with me at 9:05. Do join us then if you can.
Love to. And talking of names, if your first name is Kent, you shouldn't really be used to cover the miners' strike. At least not in the southeast.
Yorkshire miners ending that report by Kent Barker, and we've heard in the last few minutes that Kent has joined Scotland and decided not to go back to work tomorrow.
Wise man.
The board's main spokesman, Michael Eaton, says in the end the miners must accept that some pins are uneconomic and must close.
Better get a reaction to that one.
Mr. Scargill is telling the Miners' Union Conference in Sheffield he believes it'll mean 100,000 jobs going in the mining industry.
There's no way I'm taking money out there just to say, he's a kangaroo and he drinks Fosters. I'm not interested. If he can't play rugby league and he can't play the class I want to play, I'll not be signing him.
Well, obviously that wasn't Mr. Scargill. Mr. Scargill, was it? It was, I'm told. Well, I didn't think it was.
Of course it wasn't. But this is, though his geography's a bit up the creek.
We've seen the introduction in 1984 of a paramilitary state. We've seen a police force deployed in a way that most observers thought could only happen, say, in Poland or some other South American country.
And if, like some politicians, you take a rigid, immovable stand, it can play havoc with your legs.
Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps of twisted and knotted veins.
Let's go for a second take.
Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps of twisted...
Of course you can.
I can't read this.
Come on, Mrs. T might be listening.
I'll do it this time. No, I'll do it this time. Don't go away, please.
Right, but you'll have to get a move on.
Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps of twisted and not... Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps... I'm getting better.
Could have fooled me.
Varicose veins... Varicose veins are those... Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps of twisted and knotted veins that appear on the leg. They appear because the veins have lost their elasticity and dilate. Elasticity. Not many people have them dealt with and leap out of bed as quickly as Mrs. Thatcher, although they are far commoner among women than men. And look, we haven't got very much tape.
Don't you worry about that. We've got enough. Go on.
Varicose veins are those unsightly clumps of...
never thought they went up that high. Absolutely not, because the news is going out live right now. And what's more, the technical operator's lining up the next programme and he doesn't realise that that studio's live too.
In Buenos Aires, the man who wanted to take a party of Argentines to visit their war dead on the Falklands has now boarded the converted cargo ship he'd chartered and which was taken over last night by the military authorities. Mr. Osvaldo de Stefanis said nothing would stop him going on the alternative voyage organised by the government. The ship, the Lago Lacao, is due to leave this evening for a memorial service outside the Falklands exclusion zone. Relatives who have already begun boarding will cast floral tributes onto the sea. From Buenos Aires, John Arden.
Mr. Osvaldo de Stefanis arrived at the...
Till we meet again on Bloopers Volume 4, cheerio.